PowerPoint. This is an interactive training for you to ask questions along with that. I am now moving Kleane Kare all the federal contract employees that are hourly, not salary, but the federal contract hourly employees to a new time system. This new time system will, as I said in my email, will facilitate your jobs a much easier as management, due to the fact that the clocking in is going to be done by geofencing, which means that employees will use their smartphones to log into their app on their phone and to clock in and clock out, which means they have to be within a quarter of a mile radius of the main location address. Okay. Another thing is submitting leave requests. Leave requests will be done within the app system by the employee, and then you'll see it in the ISOF system to approve. So then that then would alleviate the paperwork that we've been doing, right? And then also this allows you, the employee, to put in for leave time for, where you can look at a calendar and you will only be seeing your employees that are pertaining to your account, that you will be seeing. Andy will also cover, if you have some specific questions on the management tools that you also have there for you, because those that are in the system as managers, which is all of y'all except for one that's on here, will have a little bit higher access to employee information than that of which is who's designated as a supervisor. Okay. So I want, and this will be also beneficial because I've also worked with ISOLV or DPS to set up within the ISOL timekeeping system the benefits leave requirements that are per account, per CBA, per SCA. So right now in Swipe Clock, those things are not set up pertaining to those CBAs, right? Because one CBA could be set for, for an employee working 5 years, they get 2 weeks. Another one, say an employee works 5 years, they get 3 weeks. But each account will be set up in far as what is set up far as their benefits package. So then that when you go into the ISOL system, then you will be able to see accurately track per what their requirements or their benefits package is, and see where that benefits is and lies. Okay. Without further ado, I am going to turn it over to Andy. Andy, we can go ahead and commence with this because I don't want to belay. Even though this training is set for an hour and a half, Andy's going to go through her spiel with everything, showing you from the she's going to share her screen and show you everything. Please take notes, ask questions. She's going to record it. So at any point in time that something is missed or you need to recap on something, I will have the recording available for you all to recap on it. For those employees that are supervisors that are hourly, will start clocking in using this new method. That will be you, Chelsea, out of everybody that's on here, and Trajan, in Trajan. That will be clocking in using this new clocking method after this Saturday, because I'm having this thing set up where supervisors are set up, will test this thing first and let us know where some hiccups are before I bring in all 50 some employees that'll be a part of this new pay group. So yourself, Chelsea, and Trajan, and then there's 3 others that I was hoping that can make this training that I was hoping that will be on this training, but there will be also starting the clocking in on Sunday, because this Saturday should close out this pay period, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, right. Okay. Without further ado, Andy, you got it.
All right. Well, thank you, Farley. All right, everybody. Like he said, I'm Andy. I'm one of the trainers here at Dominion Payroll, and I know he sort of gave you an outline of what we're going to be talking about, but I just want to be really straightforward about what I'm going to cover and the essential order that I'm going to go in. And like he said, also, I know that we have 90 minutes, until 3:30 blocked off, and for me, it will be a hard stop. And I also want to be respectful of your time as well. Um, so for today's training, that said, what I'm going to do is first, I want to show you from an employee perspective what this is going to look like as an employee. I want you to see what it's going to look like for them to clock in and out, but we'll look at what does it look like to punch on your phone. I will also show you what it looks like for them if they need to submit a missing punch, and they can do that from their phone as well if they need to submit a time off request. And that's what Farley was referring to with the accrual plans. And we won't get into a lot of the details of that, the various plans and things, but I do want you to see what it looks like to request time off again as an employee. They can do that on their phone. And then also verifying their time card, because that's something that they'll need to do. And again, they can do that on their phone. And then after we go through some of those basic tasks as an employee, I want to switch gears and show you what does that look like for you in your particular role. Okay, so from there, if we have an employee that submitted a missing punch, what does that look like for us to approve or reject it? If they've put in a time off request, same thing. What does it look like to approve or reject it? And for those of you that have or will have access to edit time cards, I'll go through some of that too, so you can see the basics of how that works. And then we'll kind of go from there. But that's the basic outline for today. All right. Do y'all have questions right off the bat, or do you feel pretty good about it so far? Kind of know what's going on?
I feel good.
Yeah? Okay.
Mhm.
So I'm going to share my screen, and I have logged in as someone who just happens to be both an employee and a manager. Okay. And I'm just saying that up front because you'll probably see this person's name when we flip roles too, but just want you to see this. So if we have someone who needs to clock in, they need to go ahead and clock in. This is their phone. This is what it's going to look like. And they can come down here, click on that little clock, and they're going to see these icons here. Now, also keep in mind, and I typically will bring this up, you want to keep in mind that I'm in a demo. This is a site or a company that doesn't exist. I may have some other capabilities that you don't. So you wanted to keep that in mind as well. Kenton, you had a question?
Yeah, could you make that a little bigger?
Oh, sure. I can try to make it a bigger phone. Let's see here.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you.
Oh,
Oh,
you want it full size?
no, it went back small though.
Oh, I got you. Is that one better? I changed it to a Pro, just so
Yeah,
you can have an
I guess
idea
that'll
of,
work. Yeah.
okay. And actually, if you want to bear with me a second, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose somebody else. And you can ignore all this nonsense. This is just me with all my demo employees that have various roles and things like that. I will say that I, as an employee, use my phone for almost everything, and I find it very user friendly. So here we are on the phone, and he's going to clock in. So if you notice this little blue clock down at the bottom, he can just click on that, and this lightning bolt right here is what we call a quick punch, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It just clocks him in or out. And so, oh, we have somebody joining us. So all they have to do is click on that lightning bolt, and then it's going to show them whether they've punched in or out the last time. So this is their last punch up here at the top. You'll notice that the location is right here. This is required when they're punching in and out on their phone. Like Farley mentioned, you all will have fence rules in place where in order to punch in, they will also have to be in a certain location, within a certain location, okay, in order for it to take their punch. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Okay. So Sammy here is going to punch in, and you'll see he can see that here, and he'll just click I'm done. and it brings him back here. And that's all it is to it. Now, at the end of the day, he would do the same thing, so 8 hours or, however long it is, he would click that clock again, hit the lightning bolt again to punch out. It will recognize whether it's an in and out punch. Okay. So that's the first thing. Now, let's say maybe he clocks out for the day, and then the next day he forgets to clock in, and how do they do that? So same thing where he's going to be on this home page. He's going to click on the blue clock. And this time, to submit a missing punch, he's going to click on this little ticket here. And from here, he can put in the date and the time and hit save. And what that will do is send a missing punch request to the person, so his supervisor or manager, that will then be able to reject or approve it. So he can come up here and we'll just pretend like maybe he forgets to clock out today. We're going to kind of skip ahead of a few hours here. And we'll just put 6:11 p.m. And he gets this green message at the top that his missing punch has been submitted. And again, that's going to go to the person who can approve or reject it. Ken, did you have another question, or is your hand up from the last time? I just want to make sure I don't overlook you. You're good. Okay, just want to make sure. Okay, so that's clocking in and out, and that's how they can submit a missing punch, all from their phone. So, again, from their phone, if they need to request time off, and again, this goes back to those accrual plans that Farley was talking about in the beginning. I know you all are going to have quite a few with what we call different rates and, amounts of time that they can earn. And we're not going to concern ourselves too much with that right now, because I just really want to show you what it looks like for them to request time off. So in this case, they're going to come down here to time and attendance. And there's one that says time off. When they click on that, what they will see, and what you're seeing here at the top, and remember, we're in my demo company. This company does not really exist. These plans, I know you probably all have or will have something kind of like PTO and maybe a sick one. But, remember, these plans are specific to me. But up here, they'll be able to see the plans that they are enrolled in, and they can see their balances, their remaining balance. And if they click on detail for any one of them, it will show them additional information about that particular plan, which me as an employee, I find that really helpful. So that's what's up here at the top. Down here at the bottom, they can see upcoming time off requests, pending requests, and past time off. All right, so they have a lot of information available to them. To create a time off request, they're just going to click on this little plus sign, and then they will choose what we call an absence policy. And I don't mean to throw around like Dominion payroll words, but these are the policies that, in this case, my employee can use to request time off. So yours will reflect the ones that you or your employees are enrolled in, but that's what you're seeing here. So I'm just going to choose PTO. And you'll notice when I do, it shows me the available hours. And once I put in additional information, this is going to change. So let's say that he needs to put in maybe time off for next Friday. They can do a date range here as well. So if someone needs to be off, let's say for a week, depending on how that absence policy is built, if they're allowed to put in 5 days at a time, for example, they can do so with one request. But in this case, we'll just do the 1 day, and you can see the date is down here, and then we can put in a start time. The start time is not required, but what it will do is it just tells the system where on the time card to put this request. So I'm going to put in 8 o'clock in the morning, and it's going to put a box on his time card at 8 o'clock in the morning. And then hours per day. So again, depending on your requirements, basically, for time off requests, some cases, people can request as little or as much time off as they want to. Some companies will say people have to request at least an hour or maybe 2 hours. So that kind of depends. In mine, they can request as little or as much as they need. So I'm just going to put in 1 hour, and then they can put any notes here and hit submit. And again, just like the missing punch, it's going to send it to the person who needs to approve or reject that time off request. Okay. And again, in real life, I use it all the time. I tend to look at my phone more than a desktop, and I find it super easy to use. So do we have questions about putting in a time off request?
With the time off request, man, you show PTO. You
Mm-hmm.
show PTO. So
Mm-hmm.
the same thing now with dealing with sick time, because
Yep.
usually dealing with PTO, you don't have to generalize time to PTO because you're just taking off the day. But
Mm-hmm.
then, but as it's shown up here, that in hey supervisors and management, in the drop down boxes, you will find there will be the appropriate selections for those individuals. Now, you have now if they're requesting time and they're out of their benefits, then it goes down to that selection of unpaid time off as the category to select if their balance is that of zero, is that of zero and all their benefits are used. So keep this in mind.
Okay.
Everybody feels good so far?
Yeah.
Okay.
The,
And we,
I got something to say.
oh yeah, go ahead.
So I'm on the app right now too.
Okay.
Just kind of following along. But
Yeah, perfect.
there any like, I guess it's for Farley actually. When will like this stuff like pop up on the app, like within my profile?
Trajan, I just sent a note because I realized that you wasn't part added to the new pay group. But once you're added to the pay group, yourself, Chelsea, and three other supervisors that are hourly, everybody else that is on here, they won't see this on their app. The only thing they won't see the ice off time, but you will see the ice off time, but you won't be clocking in. For those individuals that clock in using the telepunch system, would need to utilize this app for those supervisors for that. For the supervisors that like yourself, the site managers who are salary employees, and Karen, that is not on currently on Kleane Kare's payroll, you will still have access. You should still see this once you log into your app. It's just that you don't have to worry about the time portion. It's just managing the request that comes in and so on and so forth.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, and I know it can be a little bit confusing because again, since I'm sharing my screen and I'm using one of my own demos, I know that it's a little bit, like I said, confusing because these plans that I have are very likely called different things than the ones that you all will have. The idea here is the same. So whatever Farley and the team has talked to our team about and created, that's what the employees will see here. And how those are managed are really dependent on the stipulations that you all have put in place. So I'm sure that there may be questions along the way, and also keep in mind that we're here too to help you guys as you go along, because until you start using it, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. Um, but as you go along, I think one, especially using it on the phone, it's pretty intuitive, and I don't say that lightly. But again, if you run into any bumps, just remember we're here for y'all, okay? All right, so we have clocked in. We submitted a missing punch. Chelsea, were you okay? I don't know if
Yeah, I was just
you were
clearing
getting
my
ready to.
throat. Sorry.
Oh, I got you. No, you're totally fine. You're totally fine. I've got a little boy at home who's getting over pneumonia, so
Oh man.
So we clocked in, we submitted a missing punch, we put in a time off request, talked about those. Those are some of the main things that the employees will be able to do. And then I know that they have put it in the plans for the employees to verify their time cards, which they can also do from their phone. So we're going to hit this little home button up here, and it's going to take us back to that main screen. And if they come down here to their time card, they'll be able to see, their time card with all of their various information. And then here in this upper right-hand corner is where they can verify. So if you notice, if I stop covering it up, there's this little circle here with a minus sign in it. And if they click on that, this is where they will see that they can click this box. And I'm not going to verify it yet just because I need Sammy to not verify it yet, because we're still going to kind of mess around with his stuff. But he can click in this little box to verify his own time card. Okay. And I believe in y'all's setup, it's also set up, and Farley, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that supervisors and or managers can verify or will be verifying their direct report time card. So that's what you'll see that's enabled to be checked off on your end when you're logged in as a manager. You'll be able to do that as well.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, and so that would not, please keep in mind that won't preclude them of not getting paid
Correct.
if they don't if they check it and don't approve it. They will still get payroll processed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a note here, and just for what it's worth, typically if someone forgets to verify, it does not hold up payroll processing. So like Farley said, they're still going to get paid. It's just kind of like um, a mini safeguard, you know, where it's an encouragement to, hey, go look at your time card, make sure everything is good, but they will still get paid. Whoever's processing payroll, they will still be able to do that. Okay, so well said, Farley. All right. So again, you know, I'm just going back to that home screen, and as an employee, depending on what Farley and the team have chosen to allow the employees to do within their own, what we call self-service account. When we say that, it's just their own account where they can see their information as an employee. So depending on the decisions that have been made, that will determine what they can see on this screen and what they have access to. Okay, so also want to say that up front, because this, what you're seeing here on mine, it might be a little bit different. I may have certain things turned on that your employees won't or don't. So I do want to say that too. Okay.
Yeah, I want to jump right in on that too
Yep.
as well. So managers, just so you know that I am working with Dominion Payroll to look at all of those things to make sure that, as you can see at the bottom of the screen, I will make sure that direct deposit, like these things will facilitate the employee or yourself to include, to be able to go in there and update your own information without in real time, without trying to with the lag time of trying to send an email to me or your employees contacting me, so we can get rid of the, I say, middle persons. And there are a lot of things to turn on, and there's some things that I don't want turned on, and some things I do want turned on. So you know, of note, you'll start seeing some things to be turned on, i.e., like direct deposit, pay history, getting their W-2, so on and so forth. So you know that the employees and yourself, because you're within ISOF 2, has direct access to that information.
Yeah, the employee self-service, and I won't go into a lot of this because I don't want to go on a tangent, but again, depending on what you all decide to allow the employees to do within their own account, it can take a burden off of the managers, supervisors, and other what we call admins. You know, so going back to what he was saying, if you all decide to allow employees to update certain information, take some of the burden off of those who may have been having to do that for a lot of people in the past. And a lot of this they can do from their phone. Okay. And again, what we call roles, and when I say role, it means what someone is allowed to do. Okay, so if you have the role to update your direct deposit, just means you're allowed to do that. Those can be turned on and off as needed. So again, as you start using the system, Farley and the other people who have been in conversation with us, they've made certain decisions, but those can be adjusted as they go along. So if you all realize like, hey, the employees are needing access to fill in the blank, that can be a conversation that y'all have. And then likely Farley can contact us here and then we can look into that setup for you all. Okay.
Yes, yes, and I want to jump on that. Yes, let me know, supervisors and managers, let me know if there's some kind of information that you feel that the employees, because like I said, there's a whole long laundry list of access. And like I said, I don't want to say a blanket to everything, but the things that are pertinent, that'll take away, that'll take off your shoulders of trying to answer and or trying to request for them on their behalf.
Mm-hmm. And so hopefully, and I know just from my own experience, learning a new system, whatever that new system is, depending on your comfort level with that kind of thing, it can feel very overwhelming, trying to learn that. But just keep in mind that this is not set in stone. We can turn things on and off and help y'all through that process, okay? And so before I switch over into the perspective of a manager, just to give you an idea of what that looks, I'm going to get out of this phone view, but before I do that, does anyone want to see anything again, or whatever the case may be, or if you have questions about what we looked at as an employee? Or we're all good? Okay, I'm going to take that as a good sign, but if you think of something, feel free to interrupt me. I used to teach middle school. I was interrupted all the time. So I'm just going to get out of this. And I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to switch over so we can see, all right, as I'm just going to use a manager. You may be a supervisor. The idea is the same or similar. But then that way you can see what does it look like now that someone has submitted a time off request, they've submitted a missing punch, that sort of thing. What does that task look like for you? So I'm going to, and you can ignore what I'm doing right now. I'm just going to switch over and look at someone else. And we're going to, these are all my fake people. I have kind of a lot of them. And I'm actually going to show you the other view of iSolved also, okay? Now, we were talking about your employees using their phones exclusively, all right? Because very likely that's realistically what they're going to do. You want to know that employees, managers, and supervisors actually have two different, what we call views of iSolved. And one of them is classic, which is what you're seeing right now. This is, and these are my words, the almost like the less user-friendly in a way. There are certain things that I like to do more in classic, and that, again, remember, that's this view. But managers, employees, and supervisors also have that other view we were just in, and we call that the adaptive view. And I want you to know that because sometimes that will be at the root of someone's question. So just understanding that you have that ability to choose the view that you may like the best. But if you are in classic, which is what I'm in right now, and if you are a manager or supervisor, you want to come up here to your name drop down, and you want to make sure that you are in whatever the appropriate view is. So if you're trying to do tasks as a manager or supervisor, and again, you happen to be in the classic view, which is what you're seeing right now, then you want to make sure that that manager view is enabled, okay? Because Mary here, our friend Mary, the manager, she can go back and forth. She can go in as just an employee where she can see her own information. So all of this just has to do with her. But then if she needs to go in as a manager, she's going to click this little silhouette and choose manager. And then that's going to allow her to see her direct reports and their information. And that's what we're seeing right here. These are her direct reports. Something that you can do in Classic is if you want to default, let's say you want to default to your manager or your supervisor view, you can do that by clicking on your name, and you can go to user preferences. And here you can choose, and you will, I imagine, have one company here like I do, and then you can default your role. So if Mary wants to see her employee view when she first logs in, she can choose that. And right now I have it set to manager, okay? That may save you a headache also if you're like, I'm so sick of switching back and forth, or whatever the case is. I always need to see my manager view, or I always need to see my supervisor view. You can do that here. Okay, so Mary is Sammy's manager. Sammy is the one that was just on the phone, punching in and out, putting in a missing punch and requesting time off. So now Mary can come in here and she can approve or reject those requests. The other thing that she can do as their manager, and again, this is going to depend on the decisions that have been made by your team. you know, you may be able to see certain information on your direct reports, okay? And so I will mention that, like if she clicks on Sammy, again, keep in mind that that because I am who I am, I may have a lot more screens here than what you will need. But again, the idea here is the same. So if you click on a direct report, depending on what access has been granted to you as their manager or supervisor, you're going to be able to click through this menu and see certain information. Okay, but again, your menu may not be as extensive because not everybody that we work with uses all of these things. Like this is kind of over the top, right? But just kind of keep that in mind. All right, so let's say that you got a notification, you got an email that somebody either submitted a missing punch, they submitted a time off request. Where do you go? And if you are in this view, what you're going to do is come over here to your dashboard. So under my dashboard, and this is where you can see at a glance whether you have any transactions. And you can see here I have those 2 orange dots that need to be approved or rejected. And to handle them, it's really easy because these are actually hyperlinks. So this is a pending time off request, and I know the font is really small. But if I click on it, it brings me here, and you can see where I am in the menu. It brings me here to the admin calendar. And you as a supervisor or manager on your admin calendar, you will be able to see the various time off requests of your direct reports and their statuses. So here I can see that pending one from Sammy, okay? To approve it or reject it in this view, I can just click on pending requests. And here it is. I can click on it again, and then down below, I can either approve or reject it and hit process. And I'm going to leave it alone. I'm not going to do anything with it because I also want to show you what this looks like in that other view, that adaptive view, so that you can see if you like that view better, what can you do in there and what does it look like? All right, so I'm going to go back to my dashboard. And you can see here we have that pending punch. So this is when he submitted that missing punch. Here it is. I know you all have more than one direct report, so you're probably going to have several. I mean, I don't wish this on you, but you're probably going to have several missing punch requests. And you can do a mass approval or a mass rejection, or you can pick and choose. You can select all up here, or you would be able to just click the box next to the ones you want to, approve at once and then click the other ones to reject. And over here on the far right, you'll notice that there's this little blue view word, which is actually a hyperlink, and it will take you to that employee's time card. So if there's any question about, wait a minute, I need to see this on the time card. We haven't talked about this. You can certainly click on that and it will take you to the time card if you need to. But again, if I needed to approve or reject it, I can just click next to that one, and up here at the top, I can choose what I want. Okay. So that's one thing. You all good so far? I'm saying a lot of words, I know, on a Friday. All right. So again, this is your dashboard, and there is a counterpart to the, in that other view, that, almost like prettier view. There's a counterpart to this dashboard here that you're seeing in there, and I will show that to you in a little bit. Another question that you may have at some point is, how can you see at one time who has clocked in or out or whatever the case is? This is the pending punch screen. This is actually where we were just a minute ago. The only difference is that the filters are open up here at the top. So this is what it looked like without the filters open. And so if you are wondering who's punched in or who's punched out, you can come here to employee punch status, and you can filter for the mode. So again, I'm in a demo and these people are not real and they're not often clocking in or anything like that. But here we can see Sammy's got his in punch. We can see his manager and so on. Okay. And in that filter, you can also look at who's punched out, for the day if you wanted to do that. Okay. Another screen I want to point out to you here is the alert monitoring. And I know that the alerts, and I'll show you how many, there's a lot of alerts here, y'all. Like, look at all that. And I know for you all, and these are very common to use, that you all will have in early. So you'll have an in early alert. I believe you have an out late or out early alert. And so you'll be able to filter for those here if you need to. So this is one of the easiest places you can go. You can filter for that particular alert, and you can also set your start and end date here. It'll always give you some default dates, but you can adjust those if you need to. So if I was thinking like who was in late and I hit apply, and if I actually had employees who were, clocking in and out, and depending on the times that we had set in the system, it would recognize like, oh, this person clocked in maybe 20 minutes after their shift start time, and you would be able to filter for that. Okay. Okay, so again, on the dashboard, your pending transaction screen. This is a big one because it does exactly what it sounds like. It allows you to manage those pending transactions from your employees. And going back to what Farley was talking about before, if your direct reports are making direct deposit changes, and if you are part of the approve or deny request, whatever it may be. I use direct deposit, but it may not be that. But you'll be able to manage those various requests here. And, especially for like time off requests, I know that you all are going to have email notifications. So you will get a notification, and then you'll come in here and you'll be able to handle those on this screen. And then, like I said, alert monitoring, you'll be able to filter for those alerts, in late, out early. You can take care of those. And then your employee punch status, you'll be able to filter, and see very quickly who's punched in today, who has punched out today, for example. Okay. Do we have questions about that so far? We feel good? Y'all aren't lying to me, are you?
No. Yeah, I feel good.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
Ken, go ahead.
So tell me a little more about the punch in late and punch out early or late or whatever.
Okay. So with you all, and Farley, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but for you all, I believe you have set up certain, what we call rules, where an employee, if they clock in, let's say they clock in early, I believe for you all, it is set for 1 hour before their shift starts to 7 minutes before their shift start. So for someone to be recognized as clocking in early or clocking in late, that is going to ride on the decisions that Farley and his team have made in determining what for us as a company, what does it mean for someone to clock in early, or what does it mean for someone to clock in late? And depending on those time increments, that's how it's going to show up as an alert, alerting you to the fact that, hey, this person clocked in maybe, 30 minutes late, for example. Does that make sense, Kenton?
Yes, does it send me a notification or something? Is there something I need to do or?
Yeah, typically, I could take a look at y'all's setup, but I imagine you all have notifications. I rarely see it where someone has chosen not to have notifications. So I would assume that you all probably have notifications set up, and that's something that I can check with Farley. I'll direct this to you.
Yeah.
I can check with Lexi if it's
some
if it's something that needs to be
alerts has
looked
been
into.
set up.
Yep.
Some alerts has been set up and for notifications to go out to managers. However, like I said, this is the testing point to see what, if you come back to me and be like, hey, we need to know this. Now, then correct me if I'm wrong, that notification it has to be set across the board. I don't think it can be set per account.
Correct.
I think, yeah, it's going to be so whatever, one may want, everybody else is going to get. I see that Mr. Al Morris, who's our operations manager, he has already spoken and gave the parameters on those. Al, can you remember what parameters that you already set?
Yes, I did. As far as clocking in early, it's about a 6 minute to the hour allowance, which is a 1/10 of an hour allowance to the hour to clock in. If you clock in anytime after the hour, you're late.
Yes, and that's what I've seen in your setup too, where someone who is 1 minute past their start time, then they are considered late. And going back to what Farley said about these alerts, some of you may have 20 people who you manage or supervise. Some of you may not have as many. And depending on their punching in and out, you know, in their habits, some of you may be finding that you are receiving a lot of alerts, and maybe that's a conversation to have.
Now,
And just go ahead.
yeah, and so don't get me wrong, like so don't get this wrong. Like you're only going to get alerts for those employees that they're assigned to.
Yes,
it's not
correct.
like everybody in Kleane Kare. No, so it's
Oh,
going to
okay.
be those employees that you're assigned to, which I've already designated to. And far as the system knowing, I've looked over and got all the shift hours. So these shift hours for the set shift hours for all your employees are being entered into the system. That's how the system will know that an employee is clocking out in or early or late or so on and so forth.
Everybody
go
good
ahead, Nick.
about that? Oh, okay. I
thank
just want to
you.
make sure. Are we good about the alerts?
Yes, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, no problem. All right, so again, we just came here, we handled our business here, approved, rejected, whatever we need to approve or reject. And with the time cards, what you are seeing here, let me back out. So what Mary, the manager, did was she came under here under employee self-service, time, and then time card. And I'm going to back up just a little bit. Like if you click on a screen, I don't know how familiar you may feel with iSolved, but as a manager, since you have direct reports in the system, if you click on a screen, let's say you just log in for the day and you're not actually seeing that screen, you're seeing a list of your direct reports, that's just the system's way of asking you, in this case, whose time card screen do you want to see? That's all it means. And so in this case, Mary can choose the person she needs. And notice up here, here's that pending punch that we haven't done anything about, and I'm just going to leave it. But I do want to do just like a quick lesson in this. Remember, this is the classic view of what it looks like to edit a time card. And so here, when you first come to the time cards, you have the calendar view. You'll see this tab, and it always, by default, lands you on the calendar view. So that's what you're looking at. Right next to it, you have the spreadsheet view. And this shows you the same information in a different format. You can still edit the time card in this view as well. My recommendation is as you are learning the system, just see which one is easier for you. I for sure have an opinion. I'm going to show you both ways. So you can see here, Sammy's got some time on his time card. And if we needed to edit it, we can just click on the blue box. In this case, it is time that I put there as an admin, and I have this little editing symbol, this little piece of paper and pencil. And when I click on it, it brings me this window. Oh, I should address this black bar in the middle. Okay, remember that I'm in my demo. I have an auto meal in my system that populates in a certain amount of time. I don't believe you all have that, so you can just ignore that black bar. But I do want to say that that's why that's there. So here, if I just click on this box, choose the editing symbol, I can adjust, for example, I could adjust whatever times I need to, but we'll adjust his end time. And I'm going to type in the time I need and hit save. And notice that it grays out. Okay, that's the system waiting for us to essentially save it, save our changes. Every time we do something to the time card, we want to click show results. And when I do that, notice how this turns blue and that the earnings show up down below. And that is your sign that the system has saved that information. Okay, that's what you want to see. Now, you would be able to add punches here if needed. So let's say that somebody worked a whole day, for example. This has happened to our poor boss here. Somebody worked the whole day and they forgot to clock in, forgot to clock out. You can add an hour record. So this will allow me to put a start and an end time. So I could put, 8:30 until 6:30, whatever I need to, and it'll put that block of time on. You can also add punches. So if somebody realizes they forgot to punch in and maybe instead of submitting a request, they just tell you, I mean, hopefully that doesn't happen because then you have to remember, but maybe they're sitting right next to you or something. And you can add a punch. So here I can add in, and I'm using military time because I'm a military kid and that's just what I know. And then I can add an out punch. Whoops. Let me see, and hit show results. and you'll see that it pairs them up. Okay, and the reason that I did that, not only to show you how you can add a punch to a time card, but I want you to see the difference. If I add time to a time card, or time is there as a result of punches, which is what we have here, when I click on it, instead of seeing that editing symbol, I'm going to see in and out. And I can still edit it. It's just the difference is I don't see that piece of paper and pencil. So I can click in and see here, it will let me edit that in punch. And I'll hit save. And then again, I'm going to hit show results. And here we go. And I could do the same thing down here. I could click the out punch. Here's 5 o'clock. So if I wanted to change it, I'll hit save. And again, show results. Okay. Sometimes that editing symbol versus the in and out words can confuse people. You know, they don't really know why they get one versus the other. So that's why I wanted to address that. Okay. Do we have questions about that? And I'm just going to get rid of this. Okay. So go ahead.
Wait a minute, excuse me, I've got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So will when we open these screens up, will they be color coded to show an alert needs to be cleared? Will it show up in red or blue or yellow or something?
Depending on the level, when I say level, depending on what Farley and others have decided, you know, for us as a group, what level of alert is punching in late? Is it a critical alert, which is red? Is it a medium alert, which is yellow, you know, or is it a lower level one? But they are color coded and they will show up that way also on that dashboard. When you filter for them, you'll be able to see, you know, for example, if I have a critical alert, it will show up with a red dot next to it. Does that answer your question, Al?
Yeah, yes, it does. I have another question. So
Sure.
before payroll is processed, because our payrolls run Sunday to Saturday every 2 weeks. So before it can be processed, of course, all alerts have to be cleared, right? So will there be something that will just keep pinging someone, and you know, a manager to say, hey, you know, we can't process payroll till you clear this alert or something?
Yeah.
So we don't hold up payroll.
Right. Well, and for the one or the people who are processing payroll, when they go in to that screen to process payroll, and they are going to do what's called locking and committing time cards, and I'm sure that either Lexi or maybe Nicole Lightfoot, someone is going to be walking you all through that if needed. I know that Nicole works with Farley pretty closely, so, and I'm not, to be honest with you, totally in the know about who is handling what. But when you go to process payroll, depending on the level of alerts, it will let you know. And there's also a report that you can generate to show you the various alerts. Mary just doesn't have access to that kind of stuff right now. So, but there, yes, short answer is yes, that there are safeguards put in place so that, you know, for example, if somebody's punch is still, you know, hasn't been approved or rejected, that still needs to be addressed, it will alert you to that along with other various alerts depending on what you have set up in the system.
Hey, and also please explain the clocking in, clocking out for lunch and breaks.
Okay, so from what I saw in your system, you at this time, and Farley, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you don't have like what I have. You don't have a particular auto meal, you don't have a meal or break rule. So from what I can tell right now, unless it's something that you and Lexi are still working out, they will clock out for their lunch and then they will clock back in. And again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I can see for right now.
There's no set time. So I just want to make sure I bring this up to the group that, you know, employees still need to clock in and clock out for the break. Managers, you are required to look at that. If you know that they're supposed to have a 30-minute lunch break, then at the minimum, that's, at the most, I should say, that's what they're supposed to get. So make sure that you're checking, time cards or time punches reflecting those meal times or break times.
Any questions about that? Okay, so that's how you can edit time cards. And I feel like it's one of those things that once you get in there and get your hands on it, it makes more sense. I will switch over to the spreadsheet view so you can get an idea of how this works. So again, just remember in my demo, I have that auto meal. And I say that because you'll notice that the days of the week in this case, because that's what I'm looking at, I have the days of the week here, and some of my days have more than one line. And the reason why is because I have that auto meal. Because yours is not set up the exact same way, you are not going to have multiple lines for one day. Regardless, what you'll see on the spreadsheet is your list of days, your start date. You'll see the start time. So if that employee has been clocking in, then you'll see those here. You'll see the end date and their end times here. And then on the far right, you'll see those hour earnings. So if you remember on the calendar, those hour earnings are here at the bottom, but on the spreadsheet, they're over off to the right. And when it comes to editing the time cards, you click in the cell, you type in the time you need, and then I click off of it, and then I will click show results. You always want to hit show results when it pops up so that it can capture, it's like the save button, if you think of it that way. And you'll notice that we changed Sunday to 8 o'clock. If we go back over to the calendar, which is not necessary, but you can, if you're kind of like superstitious and you're like, did it really save? You can come over here and Sunday is now changed to 8 o'clock. So they will mirror each other. It's just which view do you find easier to use? So again, if I need to change the end time for Monday or the out time, so I could come over here to Monday and here's where they left for the day. If I wanted to change it, I'm going to click show results. So we changed Monday's out time to 6 o'clock. And here's Monday, and it is reflected here as well. Okay. Again, you don't have to check it on the calendar, but I do want to show you like they really do get along. The format is just a little bit different. Do we have questions about this particular view? All good, huh? Okay. So when I come over here, you'll notice if you are in this view and maybe you need to verify a direct reports time card, you can come up here. It's going to show up in the black action bar and you'll be able to click approve to verify. Again, it's not going to hold up payroll. It's just a way to kind of go through and double check, does everybody's time card look good? Okay. Any questions about that? And then we can take a look at some of these same tasks, but in the other view, in that adaptive view that we saw in the beginning. We're feeling good? And if you need to see something again, let me know. Kenton, did you have something?
No, I was just gonna say all good.
You're all good. Okay. All right. I appreciate it. Now again, we're still Mary the manager, and we are going to travel over to adaptive. So remember, this is what we call classic, and we can get to adaptive by coming to the employee welcome screen. And I'm going to come over here to try our new look. And it's going to kick me out. That was not planned. And okay. So again, as a manager or supervisor or both, you have those two views. And you may find that certain tasks are easier in one view than the other. So, the big lesson here, I think, is that you have options. And if I'm in this view on a desktop, to switch over, I'm going to come up here to these initials. Ignore that the initials don't match the person because that's unique to me. If I click on that, I can switch over to the other view by clicking my initials and clicking on classic, and it'll bring me back over. Okay. All right, so this is the same view that we looked at on the phone, okay, just on a desktop this time. And when you are in adaptive as a manager or supervisor, if you remember in the other one, we clicked on our name and we had to make sure that we were in our manager or supervisor view to do those tasks. When you come to adaptive, you don't have to do that. And the reason why is because you will have this icon here that says manage. Everything underneath it has to do with Mary as an employee herself, meaning the time and attendance, it's her time card, you know, her time off requests, pay and tax, her direct deposit, her pay history, and so on. Everything that she has the ability to do is going to be, as a manager, is going to be housed here in this manage menu option, okay? And when I click on that, you'll see these options here. They also correspond to this tile over here. It's all the same. They'll all take you to the same place. Just depends on what you want to click on. We're going to go to the task screen. And if you remember, when we were in the classic view, we were on that dashboard, you know, and that's where you can manage those transactions. And I said there's a screen in the other view. There's a screen in the adaptive view that it is its counterpart, and this is it. So here, if we have employees who have punched in, we would be able to see them listed here. If they've punched out, we would be able to see them listed here. Those alerts will be available to you on this dashboard here. So again, you can see the various, let me correct myself. Medium is green, y'all, not orange. High is going to be kind of that orangey, but you're going to see those color coded and they'll be listed here. And then over on the far right, here's your pending transactions in the adaptive view. And this is where you can reject or approve those employee requests. So here we have that missing punch. And if I click review, it brings me here, and here it is. And if I click that little down arrow next to the employee's name, I can see additional information if I need it, and I could hit approve. Okay. I'm going to come back here. I could also click on review for time cards. And so up here, it's going to give me some information about my employees and their hours and their status. You know, here's about their verifications, their earnings. And down below, here are my direct reports, or here are Mary's direct reports, I should say. And over here, as a manager, she can basically approve those time cards here, or just click this button to do a mass verification. And I'm just going back to that task screen because, you know, depending on the day and depending on the requests that you get, you're going to click on a different button over here. So that's just why I keep coming over to the screen. Then you have the time off request. So if you come in here, you can click review. Here's our request. And again, we can click on his name. We can see those details here. And over off to the left, we can either approve it or reject it, you know, and then we would be able to hit process. And then if you have any updates, you know, again, it could be those direct deposit updates, or, you know, it varies from one client to another, but that's what this means. Now, if you as a manager, again, depending on your access, if you needed to create a time off request for one of your direct reports, you can do that here too. You can do it in Classic also, but this may be the elephant in the room, like, what does this create? So that's why I want to address it. If you click create new, and if you have access to do this, it's going to bring you to this screen, and I don't know why mine is spinning. I guess it knows it's Friday too, where you'll get this pop-up window and you can choose your task. In this case, you want to choose time off request. You always want to choose time off request because it will play by the rules. It will, you know, meaning, again, this is going to vary from one client to another, but if it's set so that an employee cannot go into a negative balance, you know, as far as accruals are concerned, time off request will abide by that. Okay, so again, depending on your access, depending on what you see here and what you're able to do, this is the one you want to choose. Absence, just so you know, if you have this, this will override the rules. It will allow you to create an absence no matter what. And so that's why I say you always want to choose time off request. So you'd be able to choose that and then hit next. Hit next. It'll have you choose your employee. And then from there, you would be able to put in that time off request and hit submit. Now, in this case, because the manager is creating the time off request, it will automatically approve it, because they're the one doing it. As long as it doesn't put them in a negative or whatever stipulations you may have in place. Okay. Do we have any questions about the task screen? Oh, let me hit cancel first. So this is going to be like your dashboard where you can see what do you need to go in and deal with. All good?
All good.
Okay. It's riveting stuff, right? All right. In the classic view where we were a little bit ago, where you would, when you log in, you see your direct reports and you can see certain information about them. Same is true here in adaptive. And you'll notice up here, we have these essentially menu options, and they are the same as what you see over here. Okay, so they just mirror each other. Doesn't matter which one you click. But if I click on employees, here's my direct reports. And again, I could click on Sammy. And depending on the access that I have as their manager or supervisor, it will determine what information I can see on that person. Not everybody's the same. Some clients really lock it down as far as like what is visible, but this will give you an idea. So here's some personal information about this direct report: address, contact information, employer, position. And I'm just clicking on these blue words here. Under absences, this is another place where you would be able to see certain information about the different accrual plans that they are enrolled in. Okay, this is also another place, a second place where you can go and you can create a time off request. So again, these are going to vary depending on what plans a particular employee is enrolled in. You might have assignments, you might have documents, but again, this all pertains to that one person. Okay. Do we have questions about that? And then I'll show you in adaptive that you can also edit time cards here as well. All right, we feel good. I'm going to come over here to the time card and hit review. And let's take a look at Sammy's time card. I like to pick on Sammy a lot. All right, so when I click on it, you're seeing his time card here. Over here, this approve will allow me to verify his time card as his manager. You'll see here again, we have another create new, and this is where we can actually create a new record. So this is a different kind of create new. What this will allow you to do is add hours and punches if needed. You can also create a new absence. But on the other view, I will be honest with you, I tend to prefer editing time cards in the classic view on the spreadsheet. Y'all remember that? Where you had the spreadsheet view and you could click in a cell and you could just type in what you need. I tend to prefer that. I find it much more straightforward. You're not waiting for extra windows to pop up. But again, once you get in there, you'll be able to figure out, what do you like better? So here we have some existing time. And if I click on the little blue arrow next to any one of these days, it's going to expand. So let's just pick on Sunday here. And when I click on that, I'm seeing the details for that particular day. Okay, so I click on that. If I need to edit one of these sections, I'm going to come over here to the far right. So let's say I need to edit the end time. I'm going to click on this blue arrow, and then I will click these blue dots, and then I can edit or delete. You can see that too. When I hit edit, it's going to give me this window, and then I can adjust the time and hit save. Okay, so again, if I expand it, now I can see that edited time here. If I need to change it, I'll do it one more time. So I click that arrow, I click on the arrow next to the section that needs to be edited, then the 3 blue dots, and click edit, and then I can put in the new times. And again, in my experience, I just find the spreadsheet view in the classic just to be more straightforward. but over time, you'll figure out what you prefer. Okay. Any questions about that? And again, if you needed to create, a punch for an employee, you could do that here, or, you needed to create an hour record, meaning an in and an out time. You could certainly do that too. You just hit next. And then, whoops, from here, whoops. Here we go. So this is me just creating a punch for my employee. So if I needed to, put in maybe their morning punch, I could do that and then hit save, and it would add that punch to their time card. Okay. All right, so as a manager, we looked at these tasks in Classic, and then we came over to Adaptive, and we did the same things. All right, do you need me to show you anything as far as those are concerned in one view or the other? And I don't mind to do it again, no problem. All good. Okay. So one last thing that I wanted to show you all, and that is having to do with scheduler. So with you all, you have what we would call just the regular scheduler. And at the moment, it looks like your employees will eventually have what we call default schedules. They are not all loaded in, the employees aren't assigned to this new pay group yet, so they're not going to populate yet. But I do want to give you an idea of how that works in the system, so that when you do start using it, or, as time goes on, you may change how you use it. I can't really speak to that, but I will show you what this looks like just so you have a pretty good idea. So to do that, I'm going to get into, whoops, let's go back over to the Classic view. And I'm actually going to switch over so I can show you an example that I can manipulate a little bit. It loves to give me a code with y'all. Gotta find my phone. Bear with me, y'all. Okay. So I'm back here in the Classic view, and again, I typically find this a little bit easier when it comes to scheduler, but I just want to give you a brief explanation of what it is, what it looks like. So with default schedules, what that means is Farley and others have had conversations with us, and they have set up certain shifts that are then assigned to particular employees. So you likely have employees that typically work the same shift the whole time, every day, or every day that they work. And so in that case, it just makes it easier for them to have a default schedule already set to go in the system versus having to schedule them either per day or, a month at a time, or whatever the case may be. So I'm going to come over here to employee admin tools and employee administration, employee scheduling, and I'll just show you default schedule real quick. I'm just choosing an employee, and what you're seeing here at the top is the various default schedules that they've had in the system. And right now you can see that I'm on Armando. And again, y'all haven't used this yet as a manager or supervisor. So if you need to get to a different direct report, you can use these arrows to go through your list of employees. You can also use this button here with the 3 dots and 3 lines. and it will take you to your list of direct reports. And then you can also use the magnifying glass to search by last name. And I know some of you will have quite a few direct reports. So if you search by last name, you can't do it by first name. I don't know why. Then it will pull those people up for you too. Okay. But you always want to see who you're looking at here at the top. And then you're seeing any default schedules they have in the system. And currently Armando has this one, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And we can see the effective date was last October. And so if we needed to change this or maybe stop it, then we could, whoops, here we go. I could click add new. I can choose no schedule. All right, so you all are going to have a lot more schedules in the system, I know, but you'll see all of the options in the drop down. But if you needed to take a schedule off of a person, you could hit no schedule and put in the effective date that schedule should stop. And then you would hit save. And then when that date rolls around, the system will recognize that schedule no longer applies. Okay. Same thing goes if you need to stop one default schedule and start a different one, then you would be able to come in here, choose the one that you need, put in the date that it should start, and then the system will recognize that is what they should be working. And then going back to those alerts and attendance rules. So if they're scheduled for 1 o'clock to 9 o'clock, for example, and if you have it set so that they are considered late, if they clock in 1 minute, in this case 1:01, then that alert will be set. Okay, so that's essentially how this will work. And that's true of any of these employees. So you can see those default schedules here. You're able to stop it by hitting no schedule. You can also change it to a different shift if needed, and you put in that new effective date, and then the system will recognize that. Okay. Do we have questions about that default schedule here? I will also show you the scheduler screen just so you can see what it looks like. Okay. So when you have someone, here's Armando. He has a default schedule, and you'll see it's already populated here. And the parentheses around the times just mean that it is a default schedule. That's all that is. But if you needed to schedule someone else, let's say you had to come in here and create maybe a schedule for a particular day. Let me hit cancel. What I'm going to do is just going to choose a person and click on this empty box here. And when I do that, this window pops up and I can choose the time that I need. Override shift will allow you to, when I hit override, these windows open up to me so that I can adjust the start and end times as well as duration. So even if you have a shift selected, if you needed to adjust it a little bit, override will allow you to do that. And then here you can see the attendance rule I have set. You may have, I think you all have one, don't quote me on that, actually. Scratch that, I can't remember how many you have. But the attendance rule will go here, and then we will be able to hit, I think in your case, it will probably say save instead of post. And that is just because of the type of scheduler you have. I have one that does a couple of other things, which is why you're seeing post there. But you would be able to just hit post, and it's going to post that schedule for that person. If you needed to schedule it for multiple days, you can click and drag across as long as you need to, and then you can choose the shift. I'm going to leave it on create a schedule for each day. This one down here, the create a single schedule, this one is typically used for our firefighters or hospital workers, where they may be working a shift and like sleeping over in the hospital, for example. So you typically are going to just choose create a schedule for each day. We can see the set details down here, and I'll hit post, and then it will populate here. Okay. You'll notice that when I hover over it, I still have the ability to delete it. I can cut it. I can duplicate it or copy and paste it, and I can also edit it. And just like on the time cards, when we make adjustments here, we want to hit show results. And again, that's essentially going to save it. And here it is. Okay, so that's just a quick rundown on what default schedules are. versus if you need to come here to the scheduler screen and maybe you need to do a schedule by hand for a week for somebody, for example, but you can do that too. Do we have any questions about that? Because that's really the last thing I wanted to show you all. I know it's probably information overload at this point.
Oh, well, real
Yes,
quick. So,
I
okay,
I
go ahead.
agree.
I know.
Hey,
Yeah.
who's the point of contact for assistance once this is up and running?
Farley, I don't know if you want to speak to that. I know that Nicole Lightfoot is typically your main contact. Is that right? If I understand correctly?
We have an implementation team
Mhm.
that if any issues come up, they'll still be on that they'll still be available. I will ask at my next meeting next week with them what can be the availability as we are in the infant stage of this new transition, so that Nicole doesn't get overwhelmed. But that's one of the reasons why I wanted, at least the supervisors to kind of test this out to see
Mhm.
what's going on first. For those sites, for those accounts that doesn't have a supervisor to test things out, i.e. Oklahoma City, Asheville, won't be able to be able to test this out, far as because those Oklahoma City doesn't have a supervisor like Tulsa does with Chelsea. So as we get things as I get information, inputs from other accounts, the biggest one going to be the DC account because that has the most employees with the three supervisors over there, management team over there. So as we get things, as things come up, please send them my way. I will then thus get this up to them. Like I said, this recording will be available. This should be straightforward as long as everybody use the system straightforward, and not try to circumvent the system or anything like that. It's been pretty straightforward. And so to belabor the hour, does anybody have any questions with thus so far?
When
Okay.
will
Okay.
swipe clock? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Ken.
Will swipe clock be deactivated in the near future?
Yes. So come December, come December the 22nd, all employees, barring there's no issues leading up to that. December 22nd is the start of a new pay group, of a new pay period. On December 22nd, that's when all the employees will be moved into this new pay group, into this system, and they will start using they will not use swipe clock anymore. They will use this system here to do their clocking in, scheduling, and everything. To include you managers will be using this as well, fully on come December 22nd. The reason why I chose December 22nd is that was the closest payroll period, so that when the new benefit starts, the new leave benefits package starts at the first of the year, everybody's vacation time starts, renews and everything. I want to start it on the first of the year. So unfortunately, and I want to start it within a pay period. So unfortunately, the pay period is bi-weekly, not by the first of each month. So we're going to start there in December 22nd, so that pay period of January the 10th will be the first paycheck coming off of this new time system. Is that you good with that, Kenton?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
One other question. So when someone's shift is altered, it may just, it's sometimes it just happens that day with very little notice. Then
Mhm.
do I have to go in there and change their shift?
Well, if the shift is there essentially to say when they should be working, and it's also going to trigger certain alerts. So I would say if the shift does not apply for that day, then yes, you'll want to change it so that those alerts aren't triggered.
So yeah, I can answer this. So
Mhm.
everybody, the shift schedules are set on per the contract. So for all federal contracts, the contract states that uh, each employee of whatever position is they work from this time to that time. That is what's set. Unless something deviates from the contract, that will always sit. Now, for what I think what you're getting at is yes, now if somebody needs to work in late or come in early, that's fine. That will those things, this doesn't preclude that from happening. However, the what the shifts enter in is just the parameters for the alerts to happen. Not necessarily they can't clock in because or they can't clock out or a shift of or somebody's working somebody else's shift.
Sometimes somebody doesn't come to work and we have to call somebody in early or something like that is what I'm referring to.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, you can still execute that, Kenton, and then if that happens and an alert comes up, then you already know about it because you authorize it. The management authorized it for that to happen. You just can disregard that alert. The alert is just for the sole purposes of so if somebody, like I said, clocks in late, you're not always, because of the how they clock in with usually geofencing and everything. You want to know these type of alerts because they're not coming to a set phone now to come clock in.
Right. And the other thing is I can manage most of this from my laptop, correct?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes. So what she showed you here is is your view from your laptop and how to manage it. Like I said, it's going to be a little rough start from the beginning. Trust me, I had to get in a little rough start for me learning the ISOF system. It's not very user friendly, but once you use it enough, you'll see where it's very beneficial to you as managers because of the level of access it gives you and the things that you need to do at your fingertips. Okay. Um,
Yeah,
uh,
that's great. Thanks.
okay. All right.
So
Anybody else?
can I handle this through my ISOL login I currently have?
Yes. Yes. So your ISOF login goes to both your personal profile and your management profile.
Mhm.
You just select the one that you're working from. And which mostly in your case will probably be the manager side of the house, unless you have to do something personally for yourself.
Right. Yeah, I understand. I just
Yeah.
didn't know if I had to download anything or.
No, no, it's the same login. Like I said, this is going to come key with individuals using this because tax time is coming up. And what does everybody wants? They want their W-2s. This is where the employees go get their W-2s. Or when they say, hey, I need a pay stub. I will make sure that that feature is turned on. It should be turned on where employees should have access to their pay stub. So when you get employees start asking you for these information or requesting this stuff, unless it's not a feature that's turned on, which I need to know, then I can get it turned on. Then is at their fingertips. That means that the reason why they're asking is just because they're not applying themselves.
And if I can, Kenton, just to kind of address a couple of those things, if that's okay, Farley, if that's all right
Go
with
ahead.
you.
Go ahead.
So Kenton, just to show you, when you log in and your email is going to be your login. So whatever you've been logging in with before, you're going to keep using that. And the only difference really is if you're in this classic view, when you come up to your name drop down, depending on your roles, you will see employee, and then you might see manager or supervisor or both, depending on what else you serve as. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
Okay. And
So,
then go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
And then, like Farley was saying about the W-2s and pay history and just because I happen to be in this view, but this is also accessible in the other view, the adaptive view. But under employee self-service, you or your employees can come down here to pay history and get those pay stubs. So here you can see the different dates. They can view print pay stubs. They can choose the ones that they need. They can filter by year once, depending on how many records are in the in the system. And the W-2s, if someone has opted in to receive an electronic W-2, that's also available to them, So I'll use this year as an example. I think electronic W-2s for 2024 will load into the system on January 10th. So those employees who have opted into an electronic W-2 can come here and view that document at that time. But like Farley was saying, it can lessen the burden for you all who manage or supervise a lot of other people, because then they have the power to go into their own account and access their own information, their own pay stubs, their own W-2. So hopefully as time goes on and people get more used to the system, because I recognize like it's a lot, when you haven't really used it as much or haven't used it as a manager or supervisor, but once you start using, and you'll probably use the same screens multiple times to get really comfortable with it, I hope that it will take some of that weight off your shoulders.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? We got about 5 minutes left.
Mm-hmm.
Well, will I be required to print out W-2s and check stubs for people?
No, you're not required, because they have access to that. They, if they got a home computer, this is something they log into. Now, if if somebody is, if they don't have a home computer or printer, local library or something like that to log into, they can, internet cafe. But I mean, if you want to, if a manager want to be nice enough to do that for them because they just really doesn't have the access and means to it, then yes, I would say you're not required to, but it'd be nice enough to do that for them if they don't have those means to print out said items.
Okay.
Great question.
Any more time.
No, you're fine. Great questions.
All right. Anybody else? Okay, I want to close with this. Andy, thank you. Remember, for those on here, Paola, I see you jumped on. Please be sure that Jocelyn wasn't on this call. Be sure that you talk with Jocelyn about this. Let her know that come Sunday, because Monday when she starts working, but the employees that works on Sunday for you, Paola, they not you. I'm sorry. For you, Paola, you're going to start clocking in using this system on this Sunday coming up. And then when December 22nd comes up, that's when all the other employees, when we really roll over, that's when we got to be on top of our game here, managers, to do that. Go ahead, Paola. Oh, Jocelyn.
No,
Was that
just
you? Oh, okay. Paola, are you on here too?
yeah.
Oh, okay. So you did make the training. Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
So the individuals that will start clocking in this Sunday is Jocelyn, Paola, Chelsea, Trajan, and I think that's it. Those are and Evelyn, but I know that Evelyn's on leave right now. Those 5 individuals will start, because you're hourly and you use the clocking in system. Y'all will start this upcoming payroll period. Go ahead, Jocelyn.
No, that was it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So and then, like I said, come December 22nd, that's when I'm going to roll everybody else into this new pay group, into this new system. And then that's when that Sunday, and we just got to be aware of Paola, of those your weekend employees, to make sure they know to do that. All right. And then for all other employees, when we start kicking this thing off, then they'll start using it. All right. Like I said, 1 minute left. Anybody else? Any parting questions?
All right, Farley. Thank you for the information.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you and look forward to moving forward with this program.
All right. Well, thanks for your patience. I know it's tough on a Friday. It's a lot of information. But like I said, I'll just encourage y'all to, when you get in there and you start learning it, I think you will use the same screens probably most of the time, and you're going to get more and more comfortable. Again, because employees can do certain things on their own, hopefully that will, again, over time, lessen the burden on you and what you already have to do. So, just remember, we're here to help you. I know Farley is in close contact with Nicole and Lexi. Lexi's been the one who's primarily been building these different systems in here. So, you've got a lot of support for y'all. Okay.
All right. And then once again, this recording, Annie's going to let me know when this recording is available. If anybody needs it, then I'll make it available to those individuals. All right. So with that being said, it is 3:30 on the dot. Take care and have a nice weekend.
All right, y'all. Take care.
You too.